Okay, so furled leaders. If you've seen my latest rig, you see I have my rig with my swivel on it, my weight. At the bottom goes up to basically a catfish hook that's on a dropper. It goes 3 feet up from that to a furled leader that's hooked onto the dropper, which is basically, this is 8-pound test line that's been quadrupled over, down to 16, down to 8-pound test has been doubled over, and then a resulting loop on the end. Just drifts straight perpendicular to the line when I'm on the water. So what is a furled leader? A furled leader is basically a sort of a glorified bimini twist that's if you check out animatedknots.com, they got every knot known to mankind, right? So what you're doing is taking a single piece of line and you're just twisting it, and you double it over and twist it some more to get all these loops to make a very limp, very straight line. Fly fishermen use this a lot because you can see how that it doesn't have all the kinks in it like monofilament normally does, and it's very limp and it responds very well to casting in a fly fishing setting. But I'm finding this thing has applications far beyond that. I'm using them in my hand lines. I'm using monofilament. Today I'm going to use 30-pound test high vis just so you can see it. But for catfish, I would use either, if I'm going for eating size catfish, I'd get 15-pound test monofilament and do this. Or if I'm trying to catch some monsters, I'll use either 20-pound test monofilament and do this. And so I don't want that line, I don't want this loop here to be any more than twice the strength of the line here, because then I tend to get more of a hinging effect, and that's just going to weaken the line and sort of defeat the purpose of even using it. So you can use, a lot of fly tyers use thread. Actually, yeah, the actual thread that they're tying their flies with, they actually use that to make leaders with. In the old days, they used horsehair. And even if you use thread, modern polyester threads and nylon threads, you could really use it. Well, what am I using here? I'm just using monofilament. It's just a really thick plastic single strand thread. You're going to need some line. Size the line to the fish you're catching. If you're typically fishing for bluegill on 4-pound test line, then I would use something like 8-pound test monofilament for the furled leader. For what I'm doing. Now, for fly fishing, it's different because you're having to worry about your turning the fly over, things like that. But let's say you're fishing for catfish. You know, if you had 65-pound test braid and you have 30-pound test monofilament coming off, that doubled end up loop right there would be what, 30 times 30 times 2 is 60. For every 3 feet of line, it'll reduce down to 1 foot of leader, of tapered leader. So it's about 6 feet here. We're going to do that for demonstration purposes. 6 feet. So if you have 6 feet of monofilament, that's going to come down, as the neighbors and the dogs, it's going to come down to about 2 feet of a leader here. Because here's a problem. You see how curled up that is? That's just not going to work. It's going to be an ultimate nightmare. You have to stretch this out. Perfection loop here. Just, again, animated knots. Look up perfection loop. They have a way better demonstration than I could ever show you here. I got it hooked here on the motor. We're going to stretch this line. Stretch that monofilament. You see that? You see how straight that is now? That's the only reason. You see how much straighter that is? That's much better. Now you can either leave these on or clip them off. But since I have that grease on there, I'm going to clip these bad boys off and just go from it like that. Now you're going to put that sucker in half, forefinger and thumb, and twist to get it started. See that? See how I got it started there? Just twist it, both in the same direction. Then what you're going to do is split these in half. Now that you have that loop started there, you're going to put it between the ring finger and the thumb just to get it started here. And you're just going to wrap around just like that. And I'm not pulling it. Just the wrapping process itself feeds the line through. Now I didn't come up with this. Another guy came up with this. This is a technique that's been around for centuries. I mean, this is common knowledge really, but I saw it on a video. I forget the guy's handle or whatever on YouTube. I try to put a link to there. If you want to see his video, it's an older video. Say, well, why can't you just do this with like a cordless drill or something? Well, you could. I mean, I'm not saying you can't. This is just how to do it without tools and without jigs and all that stuff. Now, that's going to come a loose some. Then you want to take this tag in and come back around, not quite halfway, but start the same thing again here. And see, now that loop becomes the loop that you're going to put either your hook on or your tippet on. And this is going to go to the main line or your swivel or however you're going to rig it with your whatever rig you're going to use. Same thing, you're coming back around and twisting it around again. All the way up to where those stop knots were. I recommend some sort of a figure 8 knot. I recommend a figure 8 knot here. Again, how do you tie a figure 8 knot? Just need to, animated knots does a much better job at these things. And so you gotta pull that tight. It's just a stopper knot, and that's what stops the whole thing. But there, my friends, you see how straight that is, and it's straight yet it's limp, right? And it flows with the water. It catches a lot of water because of the twists in it, and it just flows perpendicular to my main line, just like this in the water, as you've seen demonstrated in, maybe a couple of videos ago. And that, my friends, is how you tie a furled leader for hand line drifting.